Xin mời hai em.
Dạ, con tên là Phan Thành Xuân, năm nay con 15 tuổi, học lớp 10. Con xin kính chào ông bà cô chú. Con xin kính chào cô Dương Nguyệt Ánh. Xin cho phép con gọi cô Dương Nguyệt Ánh bằng cô. Dạ thưa cô, cho con đặt một câu hỏi bằng tiếng Anh. As a young person, I admire your success, and I believe that my generation, with our hands and voices, can show the world what is happening to our motherland. And the things that these Vietnamese communists are doing to our motherland, like torturing our religious leaders and freedom fighters, depriving people of freedom of religion, speech, and expression, and tearing our ancestors' land apart by giving parts of our coastline to China, are all inhumane acts. Your accomplishments are something my generation definitely tries to emulate. We are heartbroken to see what is happening to our country, and I know that if we follow in your footsteps, we can change Vietnam into what it is supposed to be. Because over 85 million people are hungry for change, and 85 million people are hungry for the taste of freedom. So, what one advice would you give to someone of my age and my generation if they want to search for success like yours?
Thank you. I'm very impressed with your Vietnamese, by the way. As far as my formulation for success, and I think I've said that on other occasions. Since I'm a chemical engineer, I do it the chemical way. It's 20% brain, 20% heart, and 60% brain. 60% sweat. Meaning that it's really hard work that would lead you to success. Yes, you need brain. 20% would be more than enough, okay? You need heart, compassion, because you want to apply your brain and your talent to do the right thing, right? Choose the right path. So that's where the heart comes in. That's where compassion comes in. But 60%, the rest, is sweat. Just stick to it, you know. So it's hard work, and that's why we as the Vietnamese community around the world is so successful. It's really because of our hard work. We don't mind hardworking at all. We are a very resilient people because of a long history of always have to fight, you know, foreign dominance, this or that, and of course as refugees. So because of that, we turn into very resilient fighters. Now, when we say that we want to help Vietnam, and I talked about this earlier, we need to differentiate between helping the Vietnamese people and helping the Vietnamese Communist government, which is what we don't want, right? This is a very crucial question, because if you think about it, how do you differentiate between helping the Vietnamese people and helping the Communist government? It's not that simple, because say if you do charity work, let's say, you know, in US or in Australia, you know that if you donate money to the Red Cross or to a particular organization, a charity organization here, you know that that organization will spend the money, you know, however they do, but they have nothing to do with the government, because this is a free country. When we say something is an organization is a private entity, it really is a private entity. It's governed by its own leadership, its own charter, rules, etc. But when you go to a communist government, communist country like Vietnam, it's hard to tell, because a lot of those so-called organizations that are supposed to be private are not really private. They actually are owned or controlled by the government. So it is much harder for young Vietnamese Australians, for those of us who are outside of Vietnam, to know how to help, you know, which organization to give money to, which organization to lend our hand to. How do we know for sure that that organization is not controlled by the communist government? it takes a lot of study. You know, there's really no easy answer. You know, it's just like even when you donate to a cause, it's a responsibility of us to make sure to learn about the credibility of that organization, even if it's an Australian cause or American cause. You know, in the United States, for example, there are many, charity organizations have the common practice of disclosing the percentage of the donation that actually go to the cause. You know, they would say, you know, 82% of the budget goes to the real cause, and then the rest is just cost to run the organization, for example. So they always have to disclose. We can't do that. You know, we don't get that kind of information with the Vietnamese organizations in Vietnam. So it takes a lot more investigation on our part. There will always be disagreement in our community about how to help Vietnam. For example, there are those of us who believe that we shouldn't send any money, any help to Vietnam because we are doing the job of the government. That's what the government is supposed to do. You know, they're supposed to help these orphans. They're supposed to do, the reason that Vietnam is such a poor country, the reason that we have so many orphans, this and that, is because the government is incompetent, because the government doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So then maybe one school of thought is, well, we should do it. We as the Vietnamese, the community outside of Vietnam should do it, because by doing it, we're just helping the government doing its job, okay? So that's one. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought is, of course, well, what about sending money to your family? You know, your grandparents, your friends, your old teachers. Isn't that the same thing? Now, there's really no hard and fast answer. A lot of it depends on our own judgment and our own and everybody's situation. You know, but I would say that in general, as young Vietnamese Australians growing up, you know, born and grown up outside of Vietnam, I know that a lot of you want to help, but you don't know what to do, or you don't know who to help, because on one hand, you know that you don't want to certainly help the wrong side, the bad guys, by helping the government. So I would say that one way to help Vietnam, and being clean about it, not worrying about whether you inadvertently helping the Communist Party, is to join the cause to fight for free Vietnam, to join the cause to demand human rights. That's clean, we know. As to how to succeed in this society, I think I've shared my so-called formulation of success to you. But I would just add one last thing that I made the point before. Be a resilient tennis ball. Okay?